foreign companies in your country too, and work with us to spread this approach to transparency around the world.
In public, British politicians claim they are cracking down on secrecy jurisdictions and corruption. But in practice, they do the opposite.
And when I talk to politicians in Brussels, they say that they've had more lobbyists from London, and including politicians, come to them to protect the City of London's interests than they've had from every other European member state combined, which gives you some idea of the extent to which British politicians see themselves as essentially lobbyists.
I think they said the same thing. I didn't even know. They said that the same way what we just said. They will say something else at the front end and they will tell you something else at the back end. Let's replay that again.
In your country too, and work with us to spread this approach to transparency around the world.
In public, British politicians claim they are cracking down on secrecy jurisdictions and corruption. But in practice, they do the opposite.
And when I talk to politicians in Brussels, they say that they've had more lobbyists from London, and including politicians, come to them to protect the City of London's interests than they've had from every other European member state combined, which gives you some idea of the extent to which British politicians see themselves as essentially lobbyists for the City of London.
We begin with our big story. Cayman's efforts to ensure transparency in its financial services sector is being recognised by the international community. Earlier this week, the UK's Prime Minister, David Cameron, told Parliament that the tax haven label placed on its crown dependencies and overseas territories is unfair.
Many British politicians have personal and business ties with the City of London and British secrecy jurisdictions. Former British Prime Minister David Cameron's father, Ian Cameron, was an expert in offshore funds and was involved in offshore trusts from the 1980s onwards.
At this courthouse behind me here in St Helier, we found this. It's a document called a grant of probate, and it's attached to the English will of none other than Ian Cameron, David Cameron's father.
Say hello to Mum and Dad.
Hi, Bar. How are you? Good to see you. Ian Cameron was certainly a wealthy man. In 2009, his personal fortune was estimated by researchers for the Sunday Times Rich List at £10 million. Yet when Ian Cameron died in 2010, his estate was much smaller than might be expected, just £2.7 million.
In many cases, it's the politicians and their cronies and their families and so on, and the business people who sponsor the political parties who are using these offshore services themselves. So they've got no personal interest in closing it down. If they wanted to close it down, they could do it tomorrow. The fact of the matter is they don't want to do it because they themselves are complicit with the process.
If you come from the same kind of background, you know the right people, then all the kind of legal niceties will often fall away. You can get away with doing all sorts of things that they wouldn't just let any old person, if you came knocking on the...
When you have these woke revolutions, it requires all of us at some point to say.
All right, they are running their commercial once again. So let me click that off. We're here discussing an important thing, and YouTube wants to make it sell.
They have to make their money now. It's all about money and resources.
Yeah.
When people are dying, they're thinking of how to be the next billionaire. It's all about billionaire. Then they will bring designers things for us to buy. One handbag will be £10,000. And somebody will carry it and say, do you know how much this bag I'm carrying is?
Do you know how stupid you look? That would be the response. Do you know how stupid you look? Slave. You're a slave. You carry somebody else's bag that has somebody else's name. Pay him money. Oh, Jesus. You pay these people money to carry a bag that has their name or belt that has their name. And you're walking around like a slave. Here's my slave chain on my neck. I'm carrying it. I paid $10,000 to get my slave chain. Shame on you guys. Shame.
Please,
shame.
Please.
If you're part of the networks, you can do these kinds of things. So that's a very important part of the part of the whole system. Upper class British public school kind of establishment that has been there since, for centuries.
The British establishment, an old boys' network of privileged elites, had carved out a lucrative niche for themselves in the offshore world after the demise of empire. They transformed themselves from administrators of empire into financial handlers for the global elite and multinational corporations. As more money flowed offshore, societies around the globe began to feel the impact of the offshore world.
The reality is not what you believe, that your prime minister has the power to decide on the future of your country. The power is hidden here.
We have country after country around the world where the lack of financial transparency about taxation, about ownership, about corruption has undermined the extent to which governments deliver representative policymaking for their citizens. We have extreme cases like the hiding of tax evasion by people in finance ministries in Greece, in France. But we also have this system that in general is geared towards anonymous company ownership, the anonymous ownership of properties across London, of half of the land in Scotland. Do we really think there's any circumstances in which governments work better, in which markets work better, in which the distribution of income and assets is better when we allow so much to be hidden? Who wants to not know who you're doing business with? Who wants their government to have people working for it, or to be led by people whose assets are hidden, whose financial transactions are conducted anonymously offshore? This is a bad direction for the world.
We need the citizens to understand what is happening, that they are the ones who is carrying the burden, and that some individuals having the power are exonerating themselves. Ordinary people are paying taxes, rich people are not. So this is inequality, and it is leading up to populism, because it shows so clearly that the people today leading the world are not able to take care of the interest of ordinary people.
Nope. They graduated from Ivy League schools.
Back in the 60s and 70s, tax evasion or pushing back against taxation, it was kind of seen as anti-establishment. So, the Rolling Stones and Phil Collins, all these people kind of going offshore, going away. It was seen as a sort of rebellious thing to do. And if you fast forward to the present day, now that is the establishment. The offshore system is the establishment.
Today, offshore is the way elites and multinational corporations conduct their affairs. Tax evasion is the way business is done.
This kind of sophisticated cheating requires a huge infrastructure. We like to talk about the pinstripe infrastructure of highly educated people who think it is their right to help others to cheat societies.
We have a new mafia in town. It does not actually shoot people, does not put bullets in their kneecaps, but its trade is just as deadly. It deprives people of opportunities to have healthcare, education, security, justice, and essentially a fulfilling life.
Accountants form the backbone of the offshore system. They administer the structures that allow individuals and corporations to shift their money offshore and evade taxes.
There are about 2.5 million professionally qualified accountants on this planet. About 330,000 are in the UK.
Well-known people, well-dressed, well-fed, highly paid, are sitting in city centre offices, and they are paid to dream up tax avoidance schemes for individuals and for corporations.
We can all elect a government which says, vote for us, we will give you better healthcare, better education, better security, And next day, accountant says, sorry about that, folks. You elected this government, but we actually got a tax avoidance scheme, and the Amazons and the Googles and Microsofts won't be paying any taxes in your jurisdiction. Too bad. You voted for it, but actually you're going to get something else.
So it's a crazy world that part of the business model at big accountancy firms is how to deny public the services by erosion of tax revenues. And these firms are then rewarded with government-funded contracts, and the same firms are then advising local governments and the central governments, and the same firms then report on the company accounts and tell us all is well.
When I argue this with a Pricewaterhouse partner in a face-to-face debate, he said, Professor Sikka, you'd never give us credit for anything. We generate millions of dollars of revenues, and we have lots and lots of satisfied clients. What is your problem? And my response was very simple. That's the language of drug pushers and pimps.
Yeah. It is. You're supplying them to keep themselves up.
In Britain, a new breed of civil servant was rising to the top. One such civil servant was Dave Hartnett, who rose to the top of HMRC, the UK tax authority. Dave Hartnett had a new way of collecting tax. Deals would be negotiated on an individual basis, behind closed doors. In the case of the largest clients, Dave Hartnett frequently led the negotiations himself.
What you want to add?
Yeah, I want to add on it while it seems it's breaking. So my people, you can listen, if you listen to the it's not because they're stupid. It's not because they don't know what they're doing. Because sometimes our people think that, oh, these politicians, because each time you get one, you say, Buhari doesn't know anything, he's so stupid. Then you bring Tinubu, Tinubu doesn't know anything, he's so stupid. They don't know anything and they're succeeding, marrying wives and giving birth to children.
And ruling you.
And ruling you. These people are schemers. They are members of a sophisticated group sent on this earth to destroy humanity, to expand suffering, sorrow. And you know what? Your ignorance is making them succeed. That's the only thing. I read a comment, one of our brother, Ikenna Obibi Egon. He said you need to cleanse, internal cleansing. I said, from where to where? Who are you cleaning? Who are you living? That's what they want you to believe, so that you continue to buy your brothers and sisters, like they did in Ghana. And Jerry Rawlings said, this is not a good approach. Facing and looking for who to kill is not a good approach. Because when you kill this group, their children will wake up tomorrow and hear the story that it was you that killed their father, and they will come for you. You see, we are not helping ourselves. The only solution is information, getting accurate information. That's why we're here. You need to be trained on what the issues are so that you will know how to be part of the solution. If you are not well informed, you will not be part of the solution. You'll be part of the problem. There's something that Tony said here. He said, toppling the fraud of 1999 is the strategy for terminating the mischief of 1914. Those who do not understand this will be collateral damage in the collapse of the celebrated Lugadian edifice of crime the world calls Nigeria.
Crime, indeed. Big
edifice,
crime.
Yes. Lugadian edifice of crime. Because that's what it is. Nigeria is not a nation. They did not build Nigeria for you. Nigeria is an establishment of crime, iniquity, impunity, corruption, anything you can call it. It was intentionally created like this, so that you will suffer, so that black man will suffer, so that you Nigerians will continue to suffer and suffer from generation to generation. And the easiest way you will make them succeed is to be ignorant. Because when you are ignorant, either by the church brainwashing you or religion any form of religion brainwashing you. Of course, religion is different from spirituality. Spirituality is man knowing who made him and how to relate with him. That's not what we're talking about. And it's on a personal note. The religion, the institutions set up by these colonial masters, by men, they set them up to brainwash you and make sure you don't understand what is happening to you. And you will keep blaming God for what human beings are doing against you. Meanwhile, God has blessed you and kept you on a land full of resources. And you say, oh, is the resources cost? What type of oil do we have? Dubai have it and they're prospering. We have it, but we're not prospering. That means God has blessed you. That means God is not your problem. God did not cause trouble for you. He blessed you with what you should have. But the problem is that the enemies of your soul are working against you. And how do you take care of it? By knowing what you should know. Understanding who your enemies are and who your friends are, so that you can work in alliance with your friends against your enemy. And you know what? Most of the time, these enemies are fewer in number. The percentage is so little. You have more good people and less bad people. It's just that the good people don't know what is happening to them and they're ignorant. But if people can get up and know what the truth is, they will know what to do. He said, trumpeter in their Masol brand of Biafra franchise. Oh, okay. Okay. So we are not doing all those stuff. Please, if you're here, we appreciate your comment, because as you make comments and ask questions, we will redirect you. That's why we're here. We can't move by emotion. Gone are the days of emotional movement. They're killing us. Come, they want to kill you. That's why they came. He said they came to kill, steal, and destroy. So you announcing that they are killing you. Duh. That's what they should do. That's why they came, to kill you, actually. But what you need to know is to understand the solution on the table. You match strategy against strategy. If somebody is strategically destroying you, you have to strategically understand what to use against that person so that you can win, and win big. We can do this because the resources are in our land. We are the indigenous people. But if you, as an indigenous person, you don't want to listen to information so that you be knowledgeable, you see, you'll be falling victim. If you shout, if it's not Mossab today, it will be IPOB tomorrow. You'll be doing the same thing that your people before you did and missed it. That's why 500 years, we are still in this slave camp. Meanwhile, we are intelligent enough to get out of this. But we are not using our intelligence. We want to run around and move on emotion. We are not doing all that anymore.